guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm your host Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host Jake Ellenbogen. And guys, we are coming to you after a week 1 loss to the Buffalo Bills. The Rams lost 31-10 in LA. Almost all of you guys have seen the game by now, and it was not pretty, Jake. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. The Bills came out and they came out swinging, and we didn't respond. It was not a fun game to watch. It was really brutal. We're obviously going to get into the specific incidents of the game, Jake, but all around, just a lot of mistakes, a lot of confusion. Looked like the Rams weren't ready, both, from the coaching side and the player side. A lot of just weird mishaps. And quite frankly, Jake, I'm going to be honest, I think the better team last night won. The team that played better, I should say. I mean, the Buffalo Bills came out. They looked really, really good. And listen, you and I gave the Bills their credit already last episode. We are totally aware, as are most NFL fans, the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the AFC, in my opinion. A top 3 team in the AFC for most people. And a lot of people think they're the best team in the NFL. And they came out last night and they certainly played like it. They got the better of us. I'm not going to make any excuses for it. It's one of those games, Jake, where as much as it sucks, I think we just have to take the L and move on. But it's week 1. And I know a lot of people are freaking out. I know a lot of people are upset. I'm upset. You're upset. You and I, just before we recorded this episode, were just like fuming at just so many things that we're going to talk about tonight. But,
Oh, yeah.
Guys, you have to remember it's week 1. Regardless of if we won or if we lost, there's a lot of season left. You could come out the first couple weeks and absolutely dominate and then lose 10 games in a row and not make the playoffs. You could lose the first few games of the season and then get on a hot streak and make the playoffs. This is not going to make or break the Rams season. In my opinion, this is a wake-up call. This was a wake-up call to the Rams of things that they need to correct early on, of things that they tried that didn't work for them, and of things that they need to get better at. I mean, Jake, I'm going to let you kind of give your brief synopsis of the game, but my synopsis of this game, trying to be optimistic about it, is that thank God that we got smacked week 1. And this didn't happen late in the season. It didn't happen because we had a ton of injuries. It didn't happen because of XYZ. We tried something, it didn't work, and now we can make corrections and move on. And now I'm just glad that it happened early on. I think it's okay to be pissed off about it. I'm sure everybody can hear in my voice. Like I don't really have like that's my silver lining. I don't really have like a ton of things right now. I will say we are going to talk later about some good things that happened, because there were some good things the Rams did. But Jake, what is your opinion, brief opinion of this game before we start getting into the specifics of what went wrong for the Rams and why?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, going live and doing a live watch party was not the move. I mean, I enjoyed hanging out with people, but yeah, they lost again, 31-10. Last time I went live, they lost 31-10 to the 49ers last year. Yeah, this is not how you want it to go. Of course, it was 17-10. At the top of the fourth quarter, and there's every reason the Rams could have come back, and, they probably shouldn't have been in the game by the way the offense played. But the defense, anytime you generate 4 turnovers, I mean, I don't have to tell you, Alexis, you watched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Rams game in the playoffs. Tom Brady was aided by a 4 turnover or 4 takeaway game that put them from 27-3 to in the driver's seat to potentially have a huge comeback upset and knocking out the Rams in the playoffs. But that didn't happen. At least that was close, though. The Rams, they had 4 turnovers and did really nothing with them. They had a chance, Alexis, to go 3 for 1. What I mean by that is in the NBA, of course, you go 2 for 1 right before half. You get the, the layup, and then you try to go again, right before when you get down to the wire, the final seconds. But 3 for 1, what I mean is they had the ball going into the second half because they deferred. They had the ball once again. And then on top of that, when the Bills were driving, they had it again. They actually forced a turnover on that drive. So there was really no excuse there to not get, more than 3 points out of those 3 drives. I honestly go back to the start of the second half. I feel like it kind of went downhill after Brandon Powell took that return out of the end zone. Ended up getting to about the
Yeah.
10-yard line, maybe a little bit further, but not much further. And really, I point to that because, these moments, we were texting throughout even while I was live, and momentum is huge in football. There's not a sport where momentum carries more than football. And the Rams had the momentum, I thought, tying it up, having the turnover, going into the, second half. They were about to flip
Yeah.
the game on, the Bills' head, essentially, it looked like. But that was not what happened. And, Powell coming out of the end zone, I know he wants to make a play. I know he's trying to, create a spark. Rams are tied now. It's 10-10. Just take a knee. You have the ball at the 25-yard line. Instead, you have it at the 10. It's like a 15-yard penalty, So it was like
Yeah.
getting a sack or like getting a holding call. I mean, and then think about this, Alexis, when you're in your own territory like that, it really I would say it really flattens, it really weakens your playbook at that point and what you can do. There are a lot of plays that take longer to develop. And when you're, starting these plays at the 10-yard line, you got to worry about safety. But you got to worry about that even with a good offensive line. Now you're talking about an offensive line that struggled. It just wasn't to be. So it put them in a bad spot. And then, of course, now it's a domino effect because regardless of what people say, yeah, you can come back, you can do what you want. But now Riley Dixon's punting from his end zone. So it is that domino effect where if you start off in your own territory, you're not able to really make much of it and get out of there. Now your punter's punting. That's good field position for Buffalo because now they're going to get the ball at the 40, 45, maybe even the midfield or further. And so that changes everything. It's a field possession game at that time. And I just feel like when you look at the Bills, that was a huge turning point in the game. There was huge turning points for Buffalo, but the Rams were able to respond in at least on the defensive side. When it became the second half and the Rams couldn't adjust, that was the problem there. And I just think, ultimately, Stafford has to play better. We got to hold him accountable because if Jared Goff threw 3 interceptions, I'm a Stafford defender, but if Jared Goff had the game Stafford did, I mean, people would be calling for his head. So we got to be fair. And that's what we
Yeah.
do here on the podcast. We hold people accountable. But we also have to realize that, look, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the season. This is a wake-up call, like you said, and I'd say it's a wake-up call that they felt they didn't need. They didn't even know they needed. The way that this
Yeah.
team was, the way they operated last night, I don't think Sean McVay had any idea that this offensive line was going to get bodied the way they did. Now, does that mean the offensive line is bad? Not necessarily, because as we've seen, offensive lines take time to really develop, gel, have the continuity. The problem is, you got to stay healthy. And that was always my biggest concern with this offensive line. But last night, I think it was definitely some rust involved. 5 guys together that haven't played together on the offensive line. Combination of that. And you can't give the Bills enough credit. Their defense up front is nasty. You texted me, it really sucks. Ed Oliver goes out. Well, guess what? Jordan Phillips came into the game and was even better. He had 5 pressures,
Yeah.
just absolutely dominating a guy that you and I like a lot in David Edwards. The things like
Mhm.
that where, I think it's a combination of, yes, the Rams struggled and also Buffalo is that good.
Well, and that's that. Let's talk about that first, right? Let's talk about the offensive line because that was one of the big stories from last night. And I think that 2 things can be true at once. I think you can say that the Rams offensive line needed to play better because duh, right? But you can also say, listen, they were going against the Buffalo Bills, which is a really, really, really good defensive front, led by someone who we're super familiar with in Von Miller. And guys, I know that we all have beef with Von right now because the Odell Beckham thing, but I got to give credit where credit's due. Von Miller knew what the stage was last night and he showed up and he played really, really well.
He's
A,
back,
a
by the
lot of the
way.
guys,
He
a,
I gotta say that. I gotta chime in, Alexis. I mean, Von Miller, the last 2 years in Denver, that's not the Von we've seen the last 2 years with the Rams, the Bills. I mean, he is back. He is one of the best pass rushers in football.
yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and he showed it last night, and he absolutely dominated our offensive line, as did most of the Bills. So again, it's kind of about having perspective, right? It's about saying, yeah, we played bad, but we also were playing, again, one of the best teams in the NFL, one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL. I don't think that's an excuse, because I think you should always aim to do your job, right, in the offensive line. But
Yeah,
sometimes shit is going to happen, right? At the same time, we're going to play other really good defensive fronts this season. Many. You look at our schedule, we don't have the easiest schedule this season. We're going to play a lot of really good defenses. So that's when you have to say, okay, we're going to see this again, at least, somewhat near, what we saw last night. We have to fix the offensive line. You can't let Stafford have zero point 0.5 seconds to throw the ball. It's not going to end well, especially because Stafford's already one of his, few flaws is interceptions, right? He's a little interception prone. So you can't then make it more difficult on him by giving him such little time to throw the ball. So I think we really, the Rams really have to look at that offensive line and make some adjustments. Just before you and I started recording this podcast, we got some injury news.
we did. That's
Um,
why I'm crying right now.
Brian
No.
Allen Brian Allen is going to be out 2 to 4 weeks with a ankle injury, and Joseph Noteboom in the game last night sprained his MCL. They think he's going to be back next week for the Atlanta game, but they're not sure. If he's not back in time, then AJ Jackson will step in at left tackle. With the Brian Allen injury, Coleman Shelton is going to move to center, and Tremaine Ankrum is going to move to right guard. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, there's a lot of problems, I should say, right now at the offensive line. Very shaky, not a lot of
Very shaky.
consistency. And Jake, this is when people start saying, should we trade for somebody? Should we grab a free agent? Personally, there's no free agents right now, I'd say, that are stars. Okay, you have a lot of older guys that are solid. They're not much of an improvement over what we have, maybe a little, but it would be, I think, smart, in my opinion, maybe you go grab a guy for depth, right? Because look at this. We already have a shaky offensive line, and now we have injuries. So, what are we going to do now, right? So maybe you go grab a couple guys that are solid enough, they're decent, you put them in there simply for depth. Maybe you find a guy that you trade for. There's a couple offensive linemen in the league, guards and tackles, that, again, are they stars? No, but they're solid. And maybe they're falling a little behind in the depth chart on their team. Maybe they're on a team that's pretty solid at O line, so you go and you grab them. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that what we did last night is not accurate. We are missing greatly Jake, Andrew Whitworth, and Austin Corbett, in my opinion, on that offensive line.
I agree. And I just, for the record, Alexis, I'm okay from yesterday. I have dry eye. I'm not crying. I can assure you, it has nothing to do with the
I
injuries.
figured that.
I just had to put it out there for the record.
Yeah.
I'm getting hit over here like the Rams offensive line did last night. But
It's
yeah,
fair.
I think it's very fair. But we're gonna continue to battle, just like the Rams are this year. Now, look, this offensive line thing, I'm gonna say this right now. This is really interesting, okay? Because what if, and hear me out, this could be very controversial. So hear me out. I say, what if this ends up being the five guys? What if you figure it out? These five guys together, okay? Not AJ Jackson. I'm talking like Noteboom comes back, right? What if, like, moving Shelton to center, they find out he's better than Allen? What if they find out now that Ankrum's getting an opportunity to start on an NFL offensive line in the regular season? They find out he's good. Like, they find out he's actually, like, this is the interesting thing with the NFL. You kind of get molded into your decision making. Like, there are things that come up that can kind of derail you, but there are also things that can kind of guide you. And I'm not saying that I want anybody to be hurt. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a next man up league. So what if Tremaine Ankrum ends up being a big time guard? I mean, I really liked him. I know you really liked him. I think we both did. You know, I mean, that's kind of a silver lining there,
I appreciate
potentially.
the optimistic outlook.
Yeah.
However, I would still like to pick up somebody for depth. I'm not saying go grab a guy to start. I'm concerned now at this point about depth because, and we've talked about this on the show
Oh,
before. We're
yeah.
already really thin at
And
offensive
Bobby
line
Evans
depth,
is one of
and
those
now we've
guys,
got
so
two injuries in one
yeah.
day. So now it's like now it's really a problem. So I think, yeah, it would be nice obviously to go grab a proven starter, right? But I'm more just like at this point, just get bodies in there, just get solid bodies to, God forbid anybody else goes down, which I hope doesn't happen. But we'll see. But I think you and I and most Rams fans are on the same page about the offensive line. Consensus is not acceptable the way we played last night, but also got to have some perspective, guys. It was the Bills. I mean, if we come out next week against the Falcons and we have the same problem, then I'll start to freak out. But for now, I think we should just focus on maybe getting some more depth on that offensive line. But Jake,
And I'll join you on that
um,
because if they lose to the Falcons, that's not the same. That's not the same. I don't want to hear any excuses. You don't lose to Atlanta. You don't lose two
yeah,
straight at home. No. That will be a completely different conversation.
That that's
Um,
the thing. Like right now, I'm pissed, but I'm not
yeah.
worried. I'm pissed because we went out and got smacked by a really good team. And that happens and it sucks, but guys, it literally happens all the time. There is no one is invincible in the NFL. You're just not. You're going to have a game where you go out and you get outplayed, okay? It I hate it, but it happens. If it were to happen next week, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, not this one, that would be more where I'm not pissed, I'm worried.
Yes.
But we're not there
Well,
yet. I have faith that that's not going to
like you
happen.
said, sometimes this happens. You get beat. Bill Belichick's 2003 Super Bowl winning Patriots, they lost 31-0 to the Bills. Funny enough, the parallel, my father actually brought this up to me. They started, or on the other side, the Bills started a defensive star who they plucked away in free agency from the Patriots. Sound familiar? Lawyer Malloy. And in that game, the Bills scored 30 plus, and they won 31-0 against that Patriots team that went on to win the Super Bowl. They won 14 after that. Another thing, last year, the number one seed, the team with the most wins last year, the Green Bay Packers. They got blown out on a neutral site against the Saints. They gave up 5 touchdowns to Jameis Winston, and the Saints didn't even make the playoffs, and Packers ended up being the number one seed. This is the NFL. I don't care that they lost by a lot. That does not matter to me. If anything, I like it, and here's why. Alexis, do you really think any changes or any sort of over evaluation or anything like that? Do you think that happens if they lose a one possession game? No, and you know that. But this kind of this wakes them up, right? I mean, essentially, like, dude,
Yeah.
you just won the Super Bowl last year. You're playing at home. You're kicking off the season, and in front of your home crowd, that was an embarrassment. That wakes you up. 31-10 is
Yeah.
humble pie. And that's good because getting that early on the season,
Right.
people say, oh, well, the win-loss projections. People are like, I had them being the Bills, so I guess I'm going to have another loss on that projection. How about this? Maybe not. Maybe you don't need another loss in the projection. Maybe this loss will guarantee 2 more wins. You learn more in your losses than you do in your wins. This needed to happen. I'm glad it did because clearly they
Yeah.
needed it. They did.
No, they did, and I think from all facets, players, coaches, everybody, and I don't like the whole phrase of, oh, well, they just won a Super Bowl so that, they kind of go out feeling invincible. But you know what? It probably happens to an extent.
Human
And
beings.
I think you saw that. I think that you saw the Rams go out there and they just weren't ready, just on pretty much every level. And again, thank God it's happening week 1, right? And that's the thing. It's a shitty feeling and it sucks, but it's kind of like we'll get over it. I
Yeah.
mean, we can be angry all we want, but we'll get over it. But Jake, I'm sorry. Can you hear all the noise in the background?
No. Well, a little bit, but
Oh, okay,
it's
cool.
not a big deal. Um,
Okay, sorry guys.
One thing I wanted
Anyway,
to add, okay, because I want to really address what happened last night. Not like, kind of, tiptoe. Like, I want to explain to people in case they didn't know. Okay. Josh Allen was taking what the defense gave him. This defense is what led the Rams to the Super Bowl last year and eventually won it. So it's a pain. I don't love soft zone. It's really hard to watch. It's very predicated on getting those third down stops and keeping everything in front of you. And the bottom line is they didn't get the third down stops last night. Josh Allen continued to move the chains. And I mean, honestly, they couldn't stop the run. They gave up 6 yards per carry to Singletary. The only reason they didn't give up more is because they stopped running it with Singletary. And then eventually, you have a tighter defense, an offense that's not helping you and not playing complementary football. And so that defense is on the field constantly. And so while you're able to come away with 4 turnovers, shout out to Nick Scott, who I do believe had 2 forced fumbles in this game. I don't know if he got credit for both of them, but I think he did, in my opinion. So 2 forced fumbles. You have an interception from Terrell Lewis tearing it out of Isaiah McKenzie's hands. You have another one, perfect read on the ball by Troy Hill. You know, this is what the defense is. They're trying to make big plays. They're trying to take over the game. They're trying to force fumble. Like, they forced 4 turnovers. Raheem Morris's unit gave
Yeah.
up 31, but in reality, it was like they really had this game. It was 17-10 in the fourth quarter. So they were doing their job. The offense was not. And on the offensive side of the ball, you had people that were saying, well, Stafford just needs to go deep down the field. Well, they were playing cover 2, which is designed to really make it so you got to throw in between the pocket of the safety and the quarterback, the far pocket, not the quarterback pocket, but deep down the field pocket towards the sideline. And you really have to be accurate. Well, guess what? Matthew Stafford isn't able to make that throw if he's got guys breathing down his neck. And that is what happened. And so then what I would say is you watch this game and you're like, these are easy fixes, Alexis, if you really think about it. I don't know why Sean McVay mid-game didn't figure this out. You go back to the Bears game. Yes, your grandpa's favorite team. The Bears, if you remember, Khalil Mack versus Bobby Evans. I mean, that was a horrifying sight to see that pregame, but it worked out. We gave Bobby Evans too much credit because the reason it worked out was that Sean McVay identified Khalil Mack will blow this game up if we let him. So let's throw Tyler Higbee and have him chip Khalil Mack the whole game. I'm not going to let Khalil Mack play one snap without getting hit by the tight end and helping Bobby Evans out. They didn't do that for Noteboom, who was going up against Von Miller, a Hall of Fame pass rusher. That was the first thing. The second thing is, while they used some running back screens, they used tight end screens, bubble screens, they didn't use enough of them. You want to know why, Aaron Rodgers only has 5 interceptions in the season last year? It's because when he doesn't have guys to throw to, he'll just dump it off to Aaron Jones. He's not going to force anything. And that's the thing. I want to see more usage of that. Darrell Henderson can be utilized in that realm. You also have Brandon Powell, who, got a carry. You have guys that you can use out of the backfield. Those 2 things will go a long way. You're not done, believe it or not, if you don't have an offensive line in the NFL, because there's so many different ways, and this is why the game is so special, because there's so many different ways to combat how things work. The Rams do one thing, a team can adjust. The Rams do another thing, a team can adjust. A team does this, the Rams can adjust. There's so many different adjustments and fixes. And so I expect, really kind of going through this game without doing all 22, because we don't have the all 22 film yet. I've just come away with the conclusion that these are easy fixes. They got outplayed. They didn't have their best game that night. And for people that are making these wide, range stuff like, the Rams aren't going to make the playoffs and Allen Robinson's a bust, and I think it's way too reactionary for me. The Bills played a good game, and they took what the defense, gave them essentially. And I think that, that's important. At the end of the day, when you're playing that soft shell coverage, you're okay with giving, essentially giving the Bills the opportunity to get some yards. You're trying not to give up the big play. Well, the problem is eventually you're going to give up that big play if the offense doesn't help you out and you're constantly on the field. And that's what happened, with the Rams, is that they continued to get body blown, and then eventually they gave up the haymaker. So, that was that.
All right, Jake, let's talk about Matt Stafford or Matthew Stafford because he doesn't like being called Matt. We know that now. The game last night's a little bit shaky. Obviously, went into the game. There was a lot of concern about his elbow, a lot of concern, about how he was feeling. I thought he looked all right for the most part. I don't think the elbow was a concern. What was kind of a concern, Jake, was the accuracy. Couple throws, super off. Obviously, he threw 3 interceptions. One of them, maybe not so much his fault. Other 2 were his fault. So, Jake, let's talk about Matthew Stafford. Is there a reason to be concerned, or do you think that, the offensive line just didn't give him enough time? Because that's how I feel. I feel that the offensive line made him super uncomfortable. The Bills defense made him super uncomfortable, obviously, but the offensive line didn't help. When you have a quarterback who already has a tendency, like we kind of mentioned earlier, to throw interceptions, make some questionable decisions, and then you give him 0.5 seconds to throw the ball, it's usually not a good mix. So, again, I think correcting the offensive line is going to fix some of those concerns with Matt Stafford. Obviously, the offense, I think in general, just struggled a lot last night, just figuring things out. Do you think that this is just something we should blow off, or do you think that there's some tangible concerns here?
Yeah, I think, I think Rich Eisen said it best today. You just throw the tape off a cliff, essentially. You bury it. I mean, this is not the Rams. Obviously, I do think that you can learn a lot from it, but as far as like Matthew Stafford, like, no, I don't think the elbow, like, I'm with you. I think that was really a medium, thing out there, kind of a storyline. But I don't really look at anything he did last night and say, yeah, that should be concerning. I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it like, really this guy needs protection. He doesn't need a ton of it. I mean, he was he had the fewest sacks last year of any quarterback, so I mean, the offensive line last year wasn't amazing. It was very good, Alexis, but it was not like Super Bowl, 2018 Super Bowl 53 offensive line that won the Built for Tough Offense Line of the Year award. It wasn't that. And I think that's a credit to Stafford getting the ball out quickly. I heard a lot of people saying he holds on the ball too long. I don't know about that. You're trying to make plays happen with cover too. So, basically the 2 safeties over the top, you can't just throw the deep ball whenever you want it. I think that pretty much eliminated Tutu Atwell from this game. I think they wanted to kind of get him involved and use that speed over the top, and they weren't able to get him involved for that reason. Not having Van Jefferson, I think, might have also played into it. But I thought Skoranek was good for the most part. And I mean, Cooper Kupp, you want to talk about the,
Yep.
the good things of this game. One of them has to be Cooper Kupp looking like, Triple Crown Cooper Kupp. I saw just nothing but great things from him. I mean, especially they're down, they're down 31-10 and he's balling out at the end like he's has a chance to win the game. I mean, that's what you get out of him. So I'm not concerned with Stafford, Alexis. I think he'll bounce back. I do think the offense line needs to keep him more upright, but I also think like you're not going to get this defense very often. This was the number 1 defense statistically last year, and it was without Tre'Davious White. I did underestimate them because they played a hell of a game despite not having White, despite starting a 6th-round rookie cornerback over Kaiir Elam. I was shocked when I saw Christian Benford in for Kaiir Elam, the 6th-rounder out of Villanova. Legitimately shocked. But hey, that's a credit to them being like, we're going to put the best guy out there, and they felt it was Benford, and I don't think anybody had a horrible game. Obviously, Benford went up against Cooper Kupp, and Kupp got the best of him most of the time, but it also is Cooper Kupp. But yeah, I felt like, this is one of those games where, yeah, you kind of flush it down the toilet. But at the same time, I do think there were some good things to take away from it. I have the list actually that I made. Good takeaway, like I said, Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown. Henderson, I thought looked really good. When he had the opportunity to actually do something and wasn't hit, right in the backfield, he made the most of it. I heard a lot of complaints last year because they had Sony Michel. Darrell Henderson doesn't run up front. He doesn't fall forward. He doesn't break tackles. He did that. And that 4th down conversion, I don't think there's 10 other running backs in the league that make that because his center of gravity and his balance allowed him to get that first down. That was really difficult. Got hit, behind the line of scrimmage and is able to kind of squirt through and get that first down. That was a huge conversion. They didn't end up winning the game, but moments like that are big. So loved what I saw to him. The play designs were very creative. Okay, they didn't maybe they didn't work out, but I love the designs early on. You have the motion. You're using Brandon Powell. You're constantly having Darrell Henderson moving around. Use Tutu Atwell a little bit. With the end around the jet motion, all of that. I liked the play designs there. I thought it was creative. Skoranek, how about this? Second most average yards of separation in the game, behind only Cooper Kupp, for a minimum of 3 targets, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. So I do believe, Allen Robinson would be in that conversation too, but he was only targeted twice. But how about that? Skoranek, he steps up, he makes plays. I mean, he wasn't amazing because he didn't really have a chance to be amazing. He did what he could. You talk about that, whatever it was, miscommunication downfield, whether that was on Stafford or Skoranek, we won't really know until, I don't think we'll ever know unless one of them, speaks up about it. But I'm not a big, worrier about that. That happens. It's week 1. And I thought really all you needed to know was that Skoranek, he's a great blocker. He plays great special team, excuse me. And on top of that, he came in a pinch as the number 3 wide receiver, and he stepped up. Was he amazing? No. Was anybody amazing aside from Cooper Kupp? Also no. So shout out to him. I also liked how I liked how they used Powell on the offensive side. Needs to improve as a kick returner. We know what he is as a punt returner. He definitely needs to improve as a kick returner. Coleman Shelton and Havenstein don't get enough credit because, I think it's very easy for us to be like, the offensive line collectively sucked. But in reality, I think the right side held it down decently. You go back, you watch, Coleman Shelton had a pretty solid game. So I don't think he should be necessarily clumped in there with, Edwards and Noteboom on the left side. And that's, I think, also a credit to him playing next to Havenstein, who I think is the top 10 offensive lineman. Then you have the defensive line. Look very good. Gaines look good. A'Shawn Robinson, that was a big thing for me. He looks like he's back to his old self. I texted you, this is a guy that the Lions would literally give, and I'm not saying they used him in this way often, but they would give him edge snaps where he would be a stand-up pass rusher because he's that athletic at that size. And we saw that, not necessarily on that level, but we saw him move all the way over to the far sideline and make a really nice play. He showed the athleticism. I thought he had a good game. He was really good in really good in the playoffs last year. So glad to see that out of A'Shawn Robinson, who just feels like he's been hurt throughout his tenure with the Rams. The linebackers, best I've seen since Gray Show on turf. We're talking London Fletcher Rams.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, Bobby Wagner, anybody who thought he was washed, that play to the far hash when, he's able to go and, the guy didn't even gain a yard. He goes over sideline to sideline. You talk about sideline to sideline linebacker. They got 2 because Ernest Jones was out for blood last night. I thought he looked really good. And I'm going to put emphasis on this because there were good takeaways, even in a 31-10 game. You got to give these guys some credit. So again, Wagner's not washed. Ernest Jones, I thought, clearly has improved in the offseason. Nick Scott looks like by far the best safety on the LA Rams, which is a testament to his hard work. Look, you were there. You were on the draft show. I didn't want Nick Scott in the 7th round. I thought it was a waste of a pick. I thought he was a special teamer. I'm not a fan of drafting special teamers in the 7th round. I like getting, guys that can potentially start. Well, Nick Scott proved me wrong because he's starting and he is the best safety on the team. Troy Hill was great. Had a huge interception that they didn't really capitalize on. And lastly, I'll say this, positive, not really, but something we learned, at least I think, I don't think David Long I don't think David Long should be starting over Robert Rochelle and Jacoby Durant. To not play any preseason. Like, I need to know that you are by far worthy of being a starter. I didn't see that. And I'm not saying he should be benched for good, but I'm saying they should have more rotational basis with, Rochelle and Jacoby Durant. Maybe you argue that Kendrick should, be active next time because I'll tell you right now, Alexis, the two concerning players were David Edwards and David Long. because you can say what you will about Noteboom, but Noteboom did not start all of last year. Edwards did. And then you could say what you will, about certain players, but David Long was in last year. And when you're not playing in the preseason and you're that much of a shoe-in to be the starter, I expect better. And I got to say, I don't have anything against those two as players. I really, really like Edwards. I think he just had a bad night. And with Long, I mean, he showed up at the end of the season last year and, played pretty well. But that effort, and I don't think Edwards was a lack of effort. I think he just got beat. But the lack of effort on that deep play with David Long in coverage, you know which one I'm talking about. That's just inexcusable. That was 7-9 bullshit.
Well, let's talk about the defense, because the defense kind of gave us a roller coaster of emotions. I'd say that game. We started off really poor on defense. Again, was it the defense being bad, or was it Josh Allen just going out there and doing what Josh Allen does? Who really knows? The first couple of drives, not really great. The first quarter, really not very great for defense. But then, second quarter, the defense kind of does a 180, quite frankly. We get like 3 turnovers, I think, in the second quarter of the game. We go out there, we make Josh Allen uncomfortable. We are really good in coverage. First interception goes to Terrell Lewis, and just kind of like a really bizarre kind of first interception of the season goes to Terrell Lewis, and it really kind of like basically snatched the ball right out of the receiver's hands. Next interception, Troy Hill, I believe. Third turnover, you got a fumble recovery from Leonard Floyd. So the Rams defense really bails out our offense in the first half and allows us to have that 10-10 tie, right? When the first half ends. Second half, I think the defense still started out okay. In the third quarter, obviously, I don't think we ever got back to the place we were in the second quarter of the game. But I thought the defense is really what prevented this from being a complete blowout. If I'm being honest, I think if our defense didn't really step up, we could have lost this game heavily. 31-10 isn't a blowout, but it's not close. So thank God our defense played the way they did. I want to talk about Jalen Ramsey, Jake. We have to do it. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody in the media, other NFL players. I was sending you some tweets today. A lot of people are really on Jalen Ramsey's case because he talks a big game. Even when he's out there, Jake, even last night, he was out there complaining to the refs when people caught passes, on him. And I just got to say, I'm over it. I'm really over it. You have to back it up. He always has, but he did not last night. There was something off about him. I can't particularly tell you what it was. I don't know. It looked to me, for example, the one touchdown, was it Diggs? The Diggs touchdown to me was either he completely misread the play, thought he was supposed to be guarding somebody else, or, I think somebody broke it down. It was supposed to be guarding the 2. Diggs is the 1. He went for the 2. The 1 got the ball. Or he just, quite frankly, didn't think the ball was going to go to whatever it was a complete breakdown, and he got burned. I mean, he got torched by Stephon Diggs, which is a very Stephon Diggs thing to do, by the way. It's not like he's just any receiver. He's a very good receiver, but still, Jalen Ramsey got beat. Yeah. But there were a lot of plays that game that Jalen Ramsey got beat and bad. So I don't really think that this speaks to Jalen Ramsey as a corner. A lot of people are out there like, oh, Jalen Ramsey's no longer cornerback number 1. I'm like slurring my words. Sorry. I don't think that's the case. Too much Olipop. It's actually the studio light is like blinding. It like kind of moved a little, and it was like right in my eye, and I was like losing my vision.
Oh, now you're having eye issues.
Sorry,
going
guys.
on
I just blacked out for a second and couldn't see. Anyway, however, Jake, while I don't think this speaks to Jalen Ramsey as a player as a whole, this game, he didn't have a good game. I think that again, you can say, yeah, he didn't have a good game. David Long, like you mentioned, did not have a good game. Got absolutely torched, right? So
least Ramsey's, I guess he showed some effort
Yeah,
trying to chase him
Ramsey
down. I mean,
showed
he was so
effort, but
burned, but
he
like,
just was
I
like confused.
Long just like could Long have picked that ball off? I mean, he looked like he was like jogging.
I don't know
I
what
mean,
happened. He just got
I don't feel like that was a
well.
great
The
deep
issue,
ball,
the thing
you
for me,
know?
Jake, the point, like this spiel is like, is the corner position an issue with it? I mean, it is an issue, but is it really an issue? Does it make sense? Because we knew it was an issue going into the drafts. We drafted 2 corners. We drafted Kobe Durant and Darion Kendrick. Darion Kendrick, by the way, was hurt, I believe, right, last night. So he wasn't an option. Oh,
No,
he
he was
was?
a
Okay.
healthy
Well, he
scratch.
didn't dress. So Darion Kendrick wasn't even an option.
Yeah.
Jacoby Durant, I didn't expect to play a lot because, and I said this in the last podcast, this wasn't a game. Like the Bills are not a team that you really give people big chances like that. Again, you play it safe. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the league. So I figured that Jacoby Durant wasn't going to get a lot of playing time. I thought Troy Hill looked like the best corner out there. And I don't even think that he didn't even
By
play like
far.
amazing. He had an interception. That was a great play. But other than that, it's not like he was like playing like he just looked fine, which is says a lot to how bad.
He looked like Troy Hill, who has his
Yeah,
ups
but
and his downs, mostly has become
it
an above
speaks
average
a
corner.
little bit more to just I think how poorly Jalen Ramsey and David Long played. Now, here's the thing. Again, the Bills are a good team, but I don't think they have like Stephon Diggs amazing. I like Gabriel Davis a lot. I think he's pretty good. But it's not like they're like out here, Josh Allen is the star, right, of that offense. So I was just surprised. I didn't think that Jalen particularly would play that poorly. Uh, what do you think the issue was? Do you think he just had, wasn't able to read the coverages? Do you think that he had, just went in there expecting to, play well and kind of like we talked about that Super Bowl? I hate calling it a Super Bowl hangover because I don't think that's what it is. But what do you think the issue was with Jalen last game?
I hate that. I mean, I don't think Jalen, and I think we've talked about this off air, but I feel like Jalen's a tick off where like he just isn't his self right now. He is coming back from that. I think it was the shoulder. He had surgery on. He played through that and had to get that worked on. And I was a little concerned with how late Alexis, remember how late in the off season he gets that
Yeah.
surgery? Like he missed train. So I think part of that is the surgery. He's still not up to full speed and everything. I expect him to get up there
Hmm.
eventually, but I do think that is part of it. And I also would say I think Jordan Fuller is still not 100%. I mean, he's 100% in the fact that yeah, he's not going to be on an injury report. But can I just make this very clear? Just because I'm saying Jalen isn't 100% and Jordan Fuller isn't, doesn't mean I'm calling them injured. I'm saying when you are coming back from an injury, it's getting to that place where you're comfortable. Like it's in any sport. Your shot can be off in basketball when you come back because you've been, rehabbing your legs or whatever. And then you come back and it just feels a little different, getting back in that form. Your swing can be off if you came back from a foot injury. You know what I mean? In football, any of those positions could be off. The mechanical things like that he feels like he's just off just a little bit, and so does Fuller.
Yeah.
And Fuller broke his ankle at the end of the campaign, so you have to keep that in mind. He missed the Super Bowl. He broke his ankle like right, I believe it was in week 18. That's ridiculous. So like for him to be back, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. The timetable does work out, but maybe he's not 100% mentally or whatever. And I do think that is a fair thing to throw out there. Now, with that said, Alexis, if you're gonna talk a lot, talk
That's
so
what
to
I think the
speak,
criticism is
you got to
about. I
back
think the
it up.
criticism for him was
E-
was more
exactly.
about the attitude and kind of, the whining after as if like the receiver did something. I think there were a few moments last night where he was like a little whiny. and wasn't just kind of like, I got beat. And I think,
yeah, I mean, I thought the referees were
I do
really
too. I think
good.
I think he was frustrated. That's fine. But I just think his thing is talk, right? So I think that, you got to back it
Yeah.
up. I think he's going to be fine. He's Jalen Ramsey. I think that he'll adapt and he'll adjust, I should say is a better word. But yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I think the criticism is just more so about the behavior and the attitude than it is the actual play. Although I don't think that, I think that's probably the worst game I've seen Jalen Ramsey have since he's been a Ram. Um, in my opinion, I don't remember another game watching him where I felt that he was just that off. But
Now, I will say last night was not the worst Rams game. I'm not saying that's what you were saying, but I've seen people that are like overblowing this and they're like, this is the worst Rams games of Sean McVay's. Need I remind you the game where Alexis and I recorded a podcast in the middle
yeah,
of it? Because it was that bad. The most dominant performance I've probably ever seen from a quarterback. Like Lamar Jackson was the father of the Rams in that game at the Coliseum. I mean, have you seen a more dominating job by a team than the Ravens? The Ravens went into the Coliseum in 2019 and just kicked
I
the
pretty much
living
blacked
crap out
out.
of them. That was the
No, it
worst
was
game.
because we started recording in like the third quarter. We're like, we don't even need to watch the rest of it.
We were like
Well, and
laughing
here's the thing.
because we didn't really know how to
Here's the thing.
react. It was like, what is happening?
It's like moments like that game, moments like last night. And I think that Rams fans, in a good way, not all, some
45 to 6.
some are a little too accustomed.
45
Yeah,
to 6.
it was a nightmare. A little too accustomed to winning, which is a good problem to have. But it's like, guys, with these losses, like the thing is like, again, it sucks. Just we lost, accept it and move on. It's just like one of those things that, like, I'm still so angry, but like I know, like, rationally and logically, like, it happens. Like, you're not gonna win every game. Yes, would it feel better if like we lost in overtime to like a long field goal? Like, yeah, like, but that's not the case, right? We got outplayed, but I'm not worried.
And you wouldn't have learned anything.
Huh?
If you lost on a long field goal,
Well,
you don't
right,
learn
like,
anything. This magnifies the
this
problems.
showed us our weaknesses. It showed us our problem. It's a good reminder that, hey, like, you're not invincible. Like, there are teams that are going to come out and they, if you don't have it together, they'll outplay you. And that's what happened. So, it's not the end of the world. It's going to sting. I mean, listen, the Bills are probably going to win the AFC. I mean, they are the best team. I think they're the most complete team in the AFC. There's some good teams in the AFC. I think the Bills are the most complete team. Josh Allen is absolutely insane. We saw that last night. It's very hard to stop him, and sometimes you just got to say, you know what?
Yeah,
it is what it is. And guys, as we wrap this up here, I just want to say, week 1 didn't go our way. It's not the way you want to start a season. It's not the way you want to have your first game back after winning a Super Bowl, after hanging the banners in SoFi. I get it. It was a big bummer. But I have hope and a lot of faith that at the end of the season, we'll be looking back on this loss and be like, thank God. As weird as it sounds, sometimes there has to be something that motivates a change or lights a spark. Not saying that winning the Super Bowl last year didn't light a spark, but I'm just saying in terms of this season, Cooper Kupp said it before the game last night. He's like, we're done talking about that. And I think that's a good approach to have. I think when you start a new season, you forget the previous one. You have to be all in on the 2022 season. That's what the Rams are doing. We're moving on. I'm done talking about the Bills. I am so done. I accept the loss. I give them all the props in the world. They played a very, very good game. They made a statement. They came out swinging and they gave it to us. And now I'm ready to forget about it. And I'm ready for week 2. And my God, Jake, do I feel bad for the Atlanta Falcons, because I just have a feeling that all this rage
I
that the Rams have is
agree.
going to be taken out on Atlanta. I'm sorry, Atlanta, for what I believe is going to happen.
You haven't seen House of the Dragon, have you?
Don't spoil it. I need to see it. I'm waiting until there's like half the seasons out and I'm gonna binge it. But no,
I was gonna say, because there's there was a scene where a guy beats the crap out of the messenger, and I just feel like the messenger is the Falcons. Like they're the poor person, like
Yeah.
this poor messenger gets the crap beat out of him, has nothing to do with
No.
anything,
Well,
didn't do anything wrong. That's the Falcons
the
next year.
Falcons are projected by most.
I really think that's what's gonna happen.
Well, the Falcons are projected by most of the number one pick next year. Like they are consensus like worst team in the league. Now,
Yeah.
if we lose to them, guys, then we will be having a completely different change of
Then
tone.
we'll be beating you over the head with our words. No, not you, but the
Yeah,
Rams.
I mean, we'll freak out if that happens, but I am not freaked out. I'm angry, I'm annoyed, but I'm not
No,
freaked
I'm not
out.
either.
It's just, it is what it is, guys. I wouldn't panic. We're the mother effing Los Angeles Rams, and we are the current Super Bowl champions, and it's going to be fine. Okay, nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. The Rams made a lot of mistakes. They weren't ready, yada, yada, yada. Get over it. I'm done. I'm moving on. I'm going to throw this computer through that window over there and tear down all my studio lights.
As we move on, though,
Yeah.
as we move on, it will be very interesting to see how they address these positions that are now
Well,
like
right.
Nopum's probably going to play, I would assume, right?
Well,
So
with it,
if
well,
Allen is out,
I'm not sure. I feel like they're being super optimistic with No Boom.
okay. Well, let's just say he plays for the sake
Okay.
of this argument. So with Allen, I saw 2 to 4.
Correct.
The Rams can make that 4 by putting him on the short-term IR. And I wouldn't be against it. It would allow you to pick up somebody, because keep in mind, you have to keep him on that 53-man roster and not bring anybody up, and you chose to only keep 8 offensive linemen. You might want to go out and get a guy, and I'm not saying they'll be a starter, but like you said, they do need some depth. And I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, Jake, realistically, do you see them trading for an edge defender? I don't think the edge was the problem, but I wouldn't say that it's out of the question that they wouldn't do that, because I could totally see them trading for a Quinn or somebody like that mid-season. As far as the running backs go, a lot of people seem to want Kareem Hunt. I don't think he makes a lot of sense, because I think his value is way more than the Rams need to spend right now. I would probably see if Alexander Madison is available, with that familiarity that you have with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. See if he can cut you a deal. If he's available, I'd go after him, and here's why. I think they have a starting running back in Darrell Henderson. If he stays healthy the whole year, if we knew he was going to stay healthy the whole year, he could be the bell cow and he'd be good. You get Kyren Williams halfway through the year, he's ready for the playoff push. Good.
Yeah, I needed to.
Akers scares me.
Sorry. Well, no, sorry. I was like, I need to address the Kyren Williams thing still.
Oh, yeah, you do. But
finish your thing.
Akers scares me, because he hasn't even been in the league for 3 full seasons. I mean, this is supposed to be his 3rd season, but he missed all of his 2nd season, really. Yeah. So he scares me because he's had all these injuries, right? You talk about, first off, the explosion wasn't there last night. I'm hoping he's okay. That's the first thing. But he's had the Achilles. He had the ankle in the playoffs. Obviously, he played through that, played pretty well. And then he had the really bizarre rib cartilage injury where the football punctured his ribs. It was really bizarre, right? So he's already had these injuries. Darrell Henderson gets nicked up, right? Like he does have shoulders, like he's had a shoulder thing, he's had, ankle, all that, but he gets nicked up. Akers has had a significant injury. So now you talk about those two that have had a hard time staying healthy. Kyren Williams, who now we're talking about has a high ankle sprain, that could linger the whole season. He's going to have surgery on it. He had surgery on his broken foot. Oh, the poor guy literally can't catch a break in his rookie year. And then you're down to Jake Funk, who, by the way, you're not out of the woods on him, because Jake Funk has had 2 ACL tears in his life. So it's like the Rams are just broken, beat, and scarred. And now, if you're going to go out and get a running back, I do think there is some real, push there. Now, what do I think, Alexis, they'll do? I think they'll bring Trey Regis up from the practice squad. I think he'll take over Kyren Williams' spot, but I don't love it I went from, wow, this is a very depth-filled running back room. You got Henderson, you got Akers, you got Kyren. I think like Kyren could become the number one guy. I think Henderson can. And now all of a sudden, you're looking at Akers didn't look good last night. Henderson is the guy right now, but he's shown you like he needs to stay healthy. If he gets hurt, you're looking at Akers, who doesn't look the same, and you're looking at Jake Funk. That is the reality with the Rams. So I will not be surprised if they go out and trade for a guy. And what I will say before I pass you the baton is, for anybody that is going to say this is why they should have signed Sony Michel, Sony Michel does not fit the offense they're trying to run. They had 2 opportunities to get him when he became a free agent after the season and when he became a free agent after the Dolphins cut him. They don't want him. Okay, so let's give that a rest. He's in LA, but he's on the Chargers. We move on.
Yeah, so the Kyron Williams thing, which at the time we literally, before Jake and I started recording, just heard Kyron Williams is out 6 to 8 weeks with a high ankle sprain and is getting surgery today. I don't want to hear, oh, he's already injured so much from anybody, because Kyron Williams didn't miss a game in college. Kyron Williams had no injury history, at least publicly, until now. He went to the Rams, and whatever the hell, whoever cursed that running back room, I don't know if it was Gurley on his way out. I don't know what happened, what hex was put on the Rams running back room, but Kyron Williams got it and has now had 2 significant injuries in his rookie year. Like Jake said, Jake here, and I told Jake this already, but guys, Kyron Williams got hurt last night. Nobody really saw it because I don't know if it happened on camera or not. Kyron Williams was out there the first play of special teams. And that's how he got that ankle injury last night. He was dressed and ready to go and probably would have had a really big role last night based on what Sean McVay has said the past couple weeks of camp. Is, they've been raving about Kyron Williams, saying how he's going to have a huge role in this offense, really praising him for everything that he does. He's a super complete back, etc. And why is he out there the first play of special teams? It makes zero sense to me. I don't understand putting players in on special teams. I don't care how good they are at special teams, putting them out there when you want them to have a big role in your game, because now look at what's happened. Especially knowing, it's pretty obvious that before the game, the Rams were pretty not confident in Cam Akers, just based on what's been said. So they already knew they weren't going to use Cam Akers a lot. So why would you go and put Kyron Williams out there the first play of special teams? I mean, look at what happened. And now we're going to be without Kyron Williams, who, in my opinion, literally has all the qualities that we're complaining that our running back room doesn't have right now, who could be a major contributor as a running back and a receiver. For people who aren't familiar, Kyron Williams is also a very good receiving back. He kind of reminds me of Aaron Jones, actually, a lot. And now,
oh, I love that.
Yeah, right? That's such a, like, they're literally, and now we're without him. So that's, in my opinion, a really bad mismanagement on the Rams' part. But if you weren't aware, because we were just talking about how Kyron Williams is going to be out, that's why.
To add on to your point about them being cursed, I was just feverishly typing away while you were talking because I wanted to see something. And it turns out there are only 2 running backs on the Rams roster that ever suffered any sort of injury in college. You had Darrell Henderson's arm elbow bruise. That's not a big deal because it was just a tweak. He was removed from a game, came back after. And you had Jake Funk's ACL tears. So here's the deal, okay? Cam Akers, this is literally what we're dealing with right now, okay? You just said that Kyron Williams never got hurt in college, which I can confirm is absolutely fact because I'm looking at it right now and he never got hurt in college.
Yep.
Well, neither did Cam Akers, according to this. And Darrell Henderson had a nick, if even. Only Jake Funk had college injuries coming in.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
So there it is. They're cursed.
It's cursed, or they have.
It did not stem from college.
No.
2 ACL tears Jake Funk had, and he had a hamstring injury on the Rams. But it it's unfortunate. It really is. I mean, Reggie Scott is one of the best in the business, so I'm not about to blame their training staff for, that one position group, but they are cursed, Alexis. It's
It's
official.
unreal. It's unreal. Well, I mean, I obviously have vested interest in this because I am a very big Kyron Williams fan and have been for a long time. I've somehow become the Rams spokesperson for Kyron Williams, for the Rams fan base, understandably, because I'm kind of the one. I get it. Like, I've been really, really harping on him and hyping him up. So this is just devastating. I think not just for that, but also because he could really contribute. I mean, to this run game, which now is suffering. So, as far as trading for running back, I will not support a Kareem Hunt trade. I've said that many times. I don't care if he's a Ram or not. If he's, if he's on the Rams, sorry, when he's in there, I don't want good things for Kareem Hunt. He's done pretty horrible things. It's on video. You can look it up, and I wouldn't support it. I think the Rams should stay far away from him. Alexander Madison, yeah, I really like him. I
Come on
think
down.
yeah. On the other hand, Alexander Madison, I would support. If we, grabbed him, I think that'd be great. We're sadly in a position now where, I don't think the Rams are going to make a move at running back now. I think
No,
they're
I
going to
don't either.
try. I think what they're going to do is they're going to keep Henderson in there. They're going to have to use Akers more now. And they'll probably put in like Trey Funk. They might call somebody up, or Jake Funk. They might call.
You combined Trey Regis and Jake
Yep.
Funk.
I was thinking about Trey Regis when I said Jake Funk, and they'll call up Trey Regis, and I think they're going to see what they can do in house first. Because I do think there's going to be somewhat of an asking price probably on Madison, but
I wish they could have gotten Trey Sermon.
yeah,
That would have been nice.
yeah.
He'd be a perfect fit in this. Oh my god, I can't even get into it. I'm so furious.
But yeah, sadly, I just think now we've got kind of an issue at offensive line. We got a little issue at running back. Other than that, we're fine. Jake, to close this out, I want to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. I want to talk about it. Listen, if you guys weren't
Yeah,
aware, Odell Beckham Jr. was at SoFi Stadium last night. He was
on the Rams sideline.
on the Rams sideline and sitting close to it. He wore Rams colors. He wore like yellow pants, and then he wore like blue and white Nike Hyper Dunks or whatever they're called. Air Forces, sorry. He wasn't wearing Hyper Dunks. He's wearing a blue and white Nike Air Forces. And he was there, holding the Lombardi when they raised the banner. All of those things you would watch and say, that man is a Los Angeles Ram. He did, however, witness firsthand the team that is actively trying to recruit him, the Buffalo Bills, smack us. So that was not fun, knowing that Odell Beckham Jr. was sitting there watching the Bills dominate us, right? During the game, he was actually tweeting about it. He was teasing both Rams and Bills fans during the game. Odell Beckham Jr. knows what he's doing. He knows everybody wants to know where he's going, and we all know it's basically between the Rams and the Bills at this point. It's not really another team that he's expressed interest in or that has expressed interest in him at this point. So
Keep an eye on the Packers.
I mean, the Packers
Alan
could,
Lazard
I think,
doubtful this week, so
I
we'll
think
see if
Odell
that
is
injury keeps
seeing,
going on.
I think he's seeing how it goes the first few weeks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think he's going to sign anytime soon.
Seeing
but I
the
think he's going
way,
back to the Rams.
seeing the way the Rams played last night, I almost think maybe that can make him more inclined to go to the Rams. There was a need. I mean, we weren't.
Thank you.
Why
is that not talked about?
Well, I mean, we had the only receiver that really did anything was Cooper Kupp. I thought Skoranek played well. So I think what this goes to, guys, really, I think what happened is I think that when a quarterback panics, and I think Stafford was very panicked last night, you were just trying to get to the ball to the person that you know is the safest option, right? Matthew Stafford had laser vision for Cooper Kupp. It's why everyone, like when everyone was kind of complaining about, well, why didn't Allen Robinson do anything? Well, Matthew Stafford didn't target him. And why didn't he target him is because it's week 1. And of course he's just like, the Bills are absolutely pounding on him. And he's like, where's Cooper Kupp? That's what happened. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's going to continue to happen. I'm saying, in my opinion, that's just what happened. But he's also really familiar with Odell Beckham. That's a guy that got his trust last season. So
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to make those points about Odell. I have zero concepts of where he's going to go. I think that he's waiting to see how things play out. I think he wants another ring. It might make him sound disloyal. I think he's going to come to the Rams personally, but I don't think we're going to find out anytime soon. I just don't think that you'd be wearing Rams colors, hanging out on the Rams sideline, hugging the coaches, talking to all the players, raising the Lombardi trophy, and cheering when the Super Bowl banner gets raised if you weren't going back to that team. That's just my opinion. Jake, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly like you said, and I think everyone took it as if this Rams Bills game, whoever wins is going to get Odell. I think it's the opposite. Odell's a
Same.
competitor. He's going to go to the game. He's going to go to the team that needs him, not the team that doesn't need him just to
Right.
ride to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I don't think he makes any sense for Buffalo. Their need is not receiver. If anything, their need is probably that right guard spot with Bates. I mean, if they could grab another right guard, maybe, but that's the thing. They don't have many needs. So the last thing, they need is to go out and get a wide receiver. I think it's more so the flash. I think Vaughn, if he wasn't in Buffalo, it wouldn't even be talked about. It's because of Von Miller and because of their friendship. But I just think he's got way too many friends over in LA. He's comfortable for the first time in his career because let's be honest here, this guy was not treated correctly. He was not treated well at all. The Browns didn't treat him well. He wasn't treated well at the Giants. He got the money and then they sent him away. Nothing like signing your deal to stay with a team, stay in a certain location, and say, yeah, you're going to go to Cleveland. That's
Yeah.
not cool. So I think at the end of the day, Odell has found a home in LA, and it doesn't have to be right now, but see you December 13th. The locker that the Rams have set up for him, they wouldn't set up a locker for Odell if they weren't really certain he was coming back. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the people that I've talked to, it's kind of assumed that like he's just going to sign his deal when he gets closer, and it's going to end up being with the Rams. And really, the entire thing is, I mean, while you continue to have this out there, Odell's name, he continues to get more, like he still has the spotlight on him. So I mean, he's
Yeah.
not going to shy away from having some fun with this, and that's who he is. He's a flashy dude, and he's at the front page of headlines and stuff, and that's just who Odell is. So I mean, I think he's going to go back to the Rams, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't say they need him. I actually think he's kind of a luxury, but I do think he would really help. Having
Well,
him would allow them to do a lot more.
we've
So
seen how quickly a luxury can turn into a necessity with him. Remember last season?
exactly.
So,
But that's the thing with their history
yeah,
and having the
exactly.
wide, like what they've gone through, having the history that they did last year, everybody getting hurt. You had three wide receivers. They drafted three, only one of them stayed healthy the whole year. You have Robert Woods, who was, really healthy pretty much the majority of his career, except for the shoulder he suffered in 2017. But I mean, for the most part, you had a healthy Woods. Woods gets hurt. You lose Harris. You lose Atwell. And now all of a sudden, Van Jefferson, we find out, was playing the entire half of the season injured. So I mean, yeah, I think Odell definitely, with their experience dealing with injuries, makes a lot of sense. And I think he'll be back with the Rams. And I think it's not going to be a big issue of who's number 4, number 3. I don't look at it like that. I think they're going to have, split time between him and Van. I think, Allen Robinson will be their starter on the outside with Cooper Kupp. And, Allen Robinson, he probably isn't doing it, but I know I am. I'm watching all these people with their fantasy takes. I shouldn't have listened to so and so, probably me, and drafted Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson's a bust. He only got me 2 points. Just keep that same energy when we're in your deep in your fantasy playoffs. And Allen Robinson is one of the best receivers in football because he had a bad game, but I mean he did what he could with 2 targets. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. And on that note, guys, that's going to do it for us. That is our week 1 recap of the Los Angeles Rams game against the Bills. I just knocked my camera as I said that. But guys,
Happens.
it happens. We're gonna be back early next week with a game preview for the matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. So be on the lookout for that. Until then, follow us on social media: Twitter, Downtown Rams; Instagram is at the Downtown Rams. Guys, we'll be back soon, but until then, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.
If you haven't joined Prize Picks yet, you need to do it this season. Prize Picks allows you to pick up to 5 player props, and it gives you the option to 10x your winnings. Look at this right now. Tom Brady right now, for a limited time only, is a free square, because unless he gets hurt, he is going to be getting that 0.5. I'm going to select Tom Brady. I'm going to select Josh Allen going 275.5. Matthew Stafford going 265.5. We'll just throw Lamar Jackson in here, and let's just throw Justin Fields gets more than 191.5. So what you do here, you put more, or less if you believe, Lamar Jackson gets less than that. And there you go, 10x your winnings if this pays out. You will actually get paid out even if you only hit 3 of them. You'll get 0.4 times your money back. You'll get 2 times. You'll double your money if you get at least 4 out of 5. Deposit today by using our promo code DTRAMS, and you'll get up to a $100 bonus match.